Good morning to you, good afternoon, good evening.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to be with all of you. We have a group from the entire globe with us today, which is really beautiful and very exciting to come together as friends from many congregations and families to one delegation. And so we'll begin before anything else today. We will indeed begin in prayer, though not the rosary. And so I will invite you either to close your eyes if you wish, or I'll also put words for our opening prayer on the screen. Gracious God, let our hearts be settled in you today as we celebrate the meeting of our many different paths and callings. Let us rejoice in the opportunity to become better acquainted with new partners and friends from all corners of creation. Let us be awake to your presence within each of them. We are grateful for this new opportunity to serve you as the source and substance of our common mission and identity. We are humbled to be entrusted with the service and promotion of social, economic, and environmental justice in our local and global communities. Guide us in our efforts to collaborate and change systems so that we may more effectively sow the generous light and love where they are needed most. Amen. So welcome once again, now that we are gathered in spirit and in image and voice, if not in body. And I'd like us all to take the very first step of being delegation together by getting to know one another a bit. So we'll begin by each taking a turn to introduce ourselves, and we will do it in a brief way because we are such a large and beautiful group. And so I will ask you each to introduce yourselves by sharing your name, your congregation, where you are joining us from today, and to say something about the sustainable development goals that are most closely related to your ministry. So of those 17 Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, which of those are closest in mission to your ministry? And if you are not yet familiar with those goals, then if you could just share in a couple of words who your ministry serves or what issue your ministry is related to, then that will also help us to get to know each other. And so I will begin perhaps by inviting Anselmus.
Buenos días. Soy Anselmus Baru.
Good morning. My name is Anselmus Baru. I'm a Claretian missionary. I'm in Indonesia. Please. Are you in Indonesia now? Yes, I'm currently in Indonesia. I was in the Colombian Venezuelan province to which I belong. I was in a parish there. And my work is related to the SDGs, related to education and poverty. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicholas Ilan.
Yes, I am Nicholas Ilan from Indonesia. I'm working as the prefect of apostolate of the Clarion missionaries here. Up to now, in our organization, we are trying to be focused on the empowerment of the women in terms of gender and also education, especially for the youth. And we also try to make some programs in the parishes, especially about how to reduce the poverty. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecilia.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Cecilia Duar, Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Loreto. I'm calling from Madrid, Spain. Now, at the moment, from the perspective of the SDGs, I suppose I see them all so interconnected that it's a kind of, my life is kind of caught up in them. I'm supporting at the moment, I'm supporting our NGO office in New York. I've been there for some time, but now I'm more, I'm focusing more on it's the UN Vienna, it's the crime prevention in relation to human trafficking and peace in general. And then a second kind of focus that I have is the interfaith climate action. You're working up towards the next COP. That's where I'm going.
Thank you. And Miguel Tambil, I'm sorry, I can't see the whole name.
No sé si seré yo soy yo. Miguel
Is it me? Yes, Miguel Tombilla. I'm a Claritian missionary. I'm living in Madrid, in Spain, and I'm responsible for the mission in my province. I also work for our NGO, and we are concerned with all the the SDGs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And Celestinus.
Hi. Good evening from Indonesia. I am Father Celestinus Panggara CMF from Indonesia. I work in Solidarity and Mission. Our focus on empowerment of the women, and also we accompany the victims of the human trafficking. And now we work on we work also in in ecology. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. And Prince Cornelius.
Hi, it is Prince Cornelius, and I am a Claritian. And I am calling from Sarawak, Malaysia. So here I am assisting in the parish given to Claritians. As we are placed in a rural parish, we focus on the spiritual, social needs of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Keeger.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Catherine. I'm a Loreto IBVM sister, and I'm calling from Manchester in the UK. I'm the contact person for our NGO in New York for the IBVM province, English province, and also the Congregation of Jesus. We are currently focusing on climate change with a view to looking at the climate change meeting in Glasgow, and also the empowerment of girls through our work in education. And we're working specifically at the moment on the elimination of child workers. And I work primarily with our schools. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. And Adriana Quadra.
Hola, buen día a todos.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adriana Quadra. I am from Nicaragua, from Managua, but at the moment I am in the United States. I am a lay member of the parish of the Mary's Heart with the Claretian missionaries, and I'm here to learn. And I really wish that I could cooperate, not just as a lay person, but also as a Christian and as a member of society. Because in one way or another, it's a mission of everyone to cooperate and to promote the fulfillment of the SDGs. A good day, everybody.
Gracias, Adriana. And Anne Pratt.
Good morning. I'm a Dominican sister from Racine, Wisconsin, and I currently live in Sacramento, California. I work with our Dominican Center for Justice Resources to particularly in the area of racial justice and ecology, and we are wanting to incorporate the sustainable goals more into our justice approach in our communities. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Berthan Bete.
Hello.
Yeah.
I am Bertan Bete from Indonesia, Claretian Missionaries. Our program has been delivered by Father Nico and Father Celis before. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Welcome. Brother Saw, Jimmy. Brother Saw, are you there? Okay, then we'll go to Carol Spencer. Carol, are you there? Can you introduce yourself? Okay, then we'll go to Catherine Lopez, please.
Bueno, buenos días. Desde Montevideo.
Good morning from Montevideo, Uruguay. I'm very far away. And I belong to the San Jose province. And more specifically, I am a lay member, a committed lay member of the Claretian missionaries. And I am here in Uruguay because we run a project that is called La Fragua, in which we accompany people in vulnerable situations, especially women that have gone through domestic violence situations. So we walk with them, we support them socially, legally, and this is our main mission. Thank you.
Gracias, Catherine. Charlotte Jones.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlotte and I'm coming in from Australia. I'm currently an intern with the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Loreto, UN NGO. And like Cecilia and Catherine said, so far. We've been mainly focusing on empowering women and girls recently with the Commission on the Status of Women. And then at the moment, there's more of a focus on the elimination of child labour and an action pledge for that. So it's great to be here and I look forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Diego Solano.
Muy buenos días para
Good
todos.
morning, everybody. My name is Diego Solano. I'm a lay collaborator of the Salesians of Don Bosco in Colombia, in Bogota. Most of our works are centered in education, non-formal education in the most important cities in the country. And we also work with migrants and with victims of the armed conflict. Thank you very much.
Bienvenido. Deborah Lopez.
Mucho gusto a todos. Soy Deborah López.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Lopez. I'm in Guatemala. I'm a lay member. I work in the Planning and Development Office of the Salesians in Central America. And same as Diego, we focus mainly on the youth through education. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Deborah. Father Eduardo Apungan.
I'm Father Eduardo from the Philippines. I'm working in the parish. Of the Solidarity and Mission, and also of Procladi Pilipinas in terms of emergency response. And we are also working in poverty alleviation, in peace and justice, especially in indigenous peoples of the mission of Declaration. I'm a Clarion missionary. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Francisco Escoferi. Are you with us, Francisco?
Yes, good morning. I'm a lay person in Panama with the Claretians. I'm really a minister of the communion, but I've worked with Caritas for about 20 years, and currently I'm part of the Profesionales Católicos, trying to serve by trying to influence the vision for the country we want to be, and how to convey the values of Catholic Church and the Christianity to our society. But the Claretians do a lot of things more, like working with the indigenous people and helping the poor and helping through education on all sorts of human promotion. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabriel Pons.
Hello, good evening. I'm Gabriel. I'm a Claretian missionary, and I live in Seville, Spain. I work in a Claretian NGO, and we work with different SDGs depending on the projects we are working with. Thank you.
Welcome. Henry Ramirez.
Good morning, good evening, good night to all. My name is Henry Ramirez. I am Claretian missionary. I working in the team, the Proclade International at UN, and welcome to all for coming today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry. Janet Palafox.
Hello, everybody. I am Janet Palafox from the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Loreto. I'm joining you from Sydney, Australia, and I am the NGO representative to the UN, so probably more closely to the SDG 17, but all of them really. So they're all interconnected. And welcome, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Janet. Joaquin Behar.
I'm Joaquin Beja. I'm a Claretian missionary in Zimbabwe, in a small town in Rua. I am the parish priest, and we are running 2 schools, one primary and one secondary. So our SDG is focused in that the quality of education and also the eradication of the poverty in the area. Thank you.
Welcome. Jojo Peter.
Good evening to all from Hong Kong. I am a Claretian missionary from East Asia Delegation, which comprises of Japan, China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Right now, I am the prefect of apostolate, and we work a little bit on emphasis on environment protection and also the ecology. Thank you.
Excellent. Jose Eric.
Oui, vous m'entendez? Bonjour.
Good morning. I am Brother Eric Salesian from Madagascar, and I am the responsible of the training center and also the coordinator of the development center. And in our centers, we receive young people, normally poor young people, in order to give them a training and values for their life through the training and formation, professional training. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Eric. Jubo Jean.
Sí, muy buenos días para todos.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jean Jubo. I am from Haiti, but now I am in the formation house in Pantoja in the Dominican Republic. And from this house, in this house, my work is working with Haitian migrants who live mainly in the capital, in the main city, because in the country is full of Haitian migrants, but in the main city, we find a higher concentration of Haitian people. And from our formation house, me personally, I try to work with them and to counsel them. Thank you.
Welcome. Lilium Castellon.
Hi, my name is Lilium. I am from Nicaragua. I'm currently living in Costa Rica. I am part of, I am Claretian. I am lay. I work with Justice, Peace, and Creation group. We work with immigrants, human rights, also ecology. And I personally work with climate change because I am a PhD student and my research is about carbon pricing.
Beautiful. Gracias, Lilium. Lina Varón.
Buenos días con todos y con todas.
Good morning, everybody. I welcome you from Quito, Ecuador, but we represent a network of social work from whole America for this Salesian, the Don Bosco Salesian congregation. So we represent the social network, the Salesian social network of America. We work with children in the streets, with population in vulnerable situation, with migrants, with marginalized neighborhoods. We have a whole range of different programs. And among our goals, we try to articulate formation and communication. And that's why we believe that it is very important to have these kind of meetings like the one that you have just promoted, because they help us work together and have a better political impact. This is the way in which we believe that we can create a structural change in the world. We also work towards promoting and guaranteeing human rights and the transformation of society at a social but also at a political level. And among the SDGs, the one that might be the one in which we concentrate is number 4, which is quality education, of course, and then number 10, reduce inequality. Thank you very much. Have a very nice day.
Welcome, Lena. Lois McGovern.
Yes, good morning from Chicago. I am what we call retired and in volunteer service. So I work among other senior citizens who live in poverty, and I am a volunteer driver with many places to go, and have been active all my life among doing social work and peace and justice work. So I always try to keep my finger in. So it's wonderful to be part of such an international group. That's new for me. So thank you.
Welcome, Lois. Luis Fernando.
Buen día a todos, muchas gracias.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say hello and thank you for the organization of this meeting. That's all.
Okay, welcome, Luis. And another Luis Julian.
Muy buenos días para todos.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce Claudia, who is sitting here next to me. We are sharing the screen, so I will like him to start. We are in Paraguay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Benitez. I'm in Paraguay. I belong to the South Province. We are carrying out different parish activities together with the parish priest. We offer social services. We accompany our indigenous communities, and we also carry out work with the people in rural areas. Thank you. My name is Luis Villasanti. I'm a Claretian missionary. At the moment, I'm in charge of the parish here in Imu, in Paraguay. And as Claudia mentioned, we belong to the South province called San Jose. And we work with the poorest families in our parish, and we also work with the different indigenous communities, trying to advise them and to be with them, especially the most vulnerable ones. And we also work with the Claretian sisters who belong to the same team. We are a team, and this is our main work at the moment. And thank you for listening.
Bienvenidos, Claudio y Luis. Marcial Gamboa.
Buenos días, mi
Good
nombre es
morning. My name is Marcial Gamboa Valencia. I'm a Claretian missionary in the parish of Our Lady of El Carmen. And I accompany also another two parishes. And we work with indigenous populations and other migrants that we are welcoming in our province. We are seeing a larger group of migrants that are coming to our province, and so we welcome them, we work with them during the day, but sometimes in the night they just disappear and continue to another place. I also work in a team together with the sisters. We are at the Atlantic, and we have a border with Panama, and that's why migration is so important in our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcial. Megan McElroy.
Good morning from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I serve on the leadership team for the Dominican Sisters in Grand Rapids. And we work with women and children and those who are materially poor and for climate change. Those are some of our direction statements. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome, Megan. Oswaldo.
Muy buenos días para todas y para
Good
todos.
morning, everybody. My name is Osvaldo Martinez Cardoso. I am a human rights defender from the Claretian Corporation, Norman Perez Hueco, in Colombia. I am in Bogota. This is where our house is located. It's our main house, and we work very closely with the Claretian province in Colombia and Ecuador about, we work mainly on human rights, and we work with families and people who are victims of structural state violence. We offer spaces for people who need refuge in the Casanales department, in the Arauca, in Guayali and Pichara as well, where we work with rural populations who are fighting for their own territory. And at the moment, as you know, the situation in Colombia is very special, and we are trying to offer human spaces for the resistance, trying to help them denounce the aggressions that they have been suffering. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this space.
Bienvenido, Osvaldo. Rohan?
Hi, everyone. I am Rohan Dominic, a Claretian missionary, the UN NGO representative of our organization, Proclade International. I'm here in New York and New Jersey. Yeah, we work with all the SDGs and try to promote SDGs in all the parts of the congregation. And welcome you all, and happy to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan. Soledad?
Bueno, buen día a todos. Mi nombre es
Good
Soledad.
morning, everybody. My name is Soledad Castaña. I am a lay member who works as a coordinator of the project office in Uruguay of the Dominican Sisters. I'm in Montevideo, where I was born and where I live. And our idea is to be able to work on the whole 17 SDGs. They are closely interrelated. but the main one we are working on at the moment is eradicating poverty and offering a quality education and fighting also for gender equality. We would like to thank the organization for this meeting, because we believe that the number 17 alliances for these different objectives is very, very important, and it might help us to achieve our dream. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Soledad. Thomas Palithanam.
Good morning. From New York, I represent the solution missions at the UN as its representative. And, you know, solutions, most of you are familiar with solutions. We deal with children and youth. And Don Bosco always told us to take care of the poor and the abandoned. So the overarching theme of the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, is very close to us, leaving no one behind. Just aligns beautifully with our vision and mission for our congregation. And of course, working with children and youth, SDG 4, SDG 8, and now there's a Don Bosco Green Alliance across the globe with about 89 countries participating in that alliance. So SDG 13, and then looking for, you know, the human rights perspective of the Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 10 becomes very important for us, SDG 16, and being a global organization working in about 135 countries, SDG 17 also, you know, that's a lot of importance for us. Good to see so many people today, and congratulations, Teresa, for this wonderful organization. And Rohan, I see Rohan and the IBBM have taken so much of interest. Good to see all of you. Good morning once again to this great session today.
Thank you, Thomas. And Udiel Antonio.
Buen día, soy de
Good
Nicaragua.
morning. I'm speaking from Nicaragua, from the northern part of the country. I'm in the Mary Auxiliary Parish of the Claretian Missionaries, and we are working on climate change. We are climate activists, because in our area we have large trees and woods, and we are trying to fight the devastation of the area. So in our parish, we are organizing ourselves to face this reality and to fight actively against the devastation of our woods. We are trying to help our communities, which are mainly rural, to achieve their goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Zaida?
Hola, muy buenos días. Les saludo de
Hello,
Quito, Ecuador.
a very good morning from Quito, Ecuador. I'm a late member who collaborates with the Solutions of Don Bosco. I work together with Lina in the Solution Social Network of America. And I mainly work on with the youth in risk situation. Our network is composed by 22 countries. We also work for human rights, for education, for the rights to dignified work. And as many of you already commented, the SDGs are all very important, but looking or focusing on them from the social work that we are carrying in our network, we would like to focus on number 4, education, eradication of poverty, reduction of inequalities, gender equality as well. And number 17 is also very important as well, to achieve our goals, because without partnerships, it's very difficult that we achieve these very important goals. So we need partners, private and public. It's very nice to see all the faces here, and I believe it's very beautiful to be able to cooperate for our youth and for our future. Thank you very much.
Absolutamente. And Zulia?
Zulia?
Buenos días a todos. Les saludo desde
Good
Guatemala.
morning, everybody. I'm greeting you from Guatemala. I am a lay member of the Claretians. I am very Claretian in my heart. As Father Roham already mentioned, we try to work with all 17 goals, which is very, very broad. But at the moment, we are focusing on quality education, eradication of poverty through very specific projects that we have implemented in the rural areas of Guatemala. And apart from that, if we talk about number 17, partnerships for the goals, I represent, or I have a very strong alliance with the Claretians and with the International Catholic Movement, which is also a very wide network, and it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Gracias, Zulia. And try once again for Brother Saw. Jimmy, are you there, brother?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I am Brother Saw Jimmy. I belong to Claretian Missionary. I am joined from the Philippines. With regard to work, I don't have much experience about works ministry because I just finished my theology year only this week. But a month from now on, I will be working in education and parish ministry. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I think we have all had a moment to introduce ourselves and the work, which, as many of you have noted, is many faces of one mission. And those who were able to compare their ministry to the Sustainable Development Goals, you are already seeing the work that you do and your ministry within a broader vision that includes not only those of us working in Catholic religious communities, but also connects with the secular world and the political agenda of the United Nations system. And so to go a bit further in that direction, I will begin today in our sharing and information to talk a bit about the religious voice in the UN system and why we participate and the spiritual nature of that work. But before I go there, let me also introduce myself a little bit more. My name is Teresa Blumenstein, and I am the coordinator in New York at the UN for the Justice Coalition of Religious. And that is a group of which you are all members, even if you are meeting us for the first time today. All of your NGOs at the United Nations have come together as part of this coalition in order to strengthen the religious voice by coming together for united advocacy efforts at the United Nations. And so participating together in the political forum, the high-level political forum, which we are preparing for today, is just one of the ways that we aim to bring our voices together and our actions together to have a greater impact on the big vision and the big picture of justice and peace and integrity of creation, which have been mentioned in many different ways as you all were introducing your ministries. So I'm overjoyed and delighted to meet you and say, I know we spent a long time introducing ourselves and coming to know one another, but that is a big part of, if I had to name an SDG for the Ministry of JCoR, it would be SDG 17, partnerships. And that, of course, requires us becoming friends and colleagues from distant corners of the world. So we are very lucky to be together today to begin sometimes seeing familiar faces and old friends, and some are new faces and new friends. So very, very glad to be with you. And now I will dive into that discussion about the role of religious at the United Nations. So to begin, we note that we are considered NGOs within the UN system, though we may not think of ourselves that way, as maybe we think of ourselves as a faith organization or maybe just simply a congregation. Within the UN space, we are NGOs, and we are part of a very large community of over 5,000 NGOs that have a special accreditation, a special allowance to participate in some of the processes of the United Nations. And within this community of over 5,000, there are about 30 NGOs that are representing religious congregations like ours. And because many of those are coalitions in and of themselves, they are collectively representing over 200 distinct congregations of Catholic women and men religious. And so what our accreditation allows us to do within the UN system is a variety of advocacy activities to bring forward the concerns of the people that we serve. And we do that by making oral statements and submitting written statements. We're able to arrange meetings with diplomats representing governments. We can participate in UN conferences like the one that you all will be following in July. We are able to sponsor events inside and near UN headquarters, when of course proceedings are happening in person. We're also able to make recommendations on new UN documents and agreements when they are being negotiated. And we're also able to submit our own comments and reports on what we see as our various nations' progress toward assuring human rights and environmental justice, which often means, of course, offering our comment where we are not seeing our national governments making progress in those areas. And these 30 religious NGOs, though they may sound small, a small number within the community of over 5,000, they do have a very distinct voice that is recognized in this UN community. And it carries some special qualities that are very important to the conversations that happen in the UN. For one thing, the religious voice is credible because you are providing insights from your communities who minister to the poorest and the most vulnerable populations on the ground. And you have been among these populations for generations or centuries. You are part of the community, and that gives great credibility to your voice. Your voice is also known to be impartial because your communities reach across many international borders and don't share an identity with any particular national government. And so that brings a certain impartiality that is useful to a diplomatic conversation. The religious voice is also recognized as being strongly rooted in morals and values. You are collectively known for your deep personal and communal dedication to caring for human dignity and for the natural environment. And that dedication goes a long way to the value that's placed on the statements that are made by religious NGOs. And finally, the religious voice also brings very important steadiness and stability to the UN conversation. Whereas we see that governments may shift in their positions from decade to decade or year to year, depending on what leaders are at the head of that government at that time. And in fact, that many constitutions of governments and the UN system itself are much newer than the constitutions of religious congregations. So we see from the religious voice a real steadiness of these morals and value-rooted positions. You continuously advocate based on the same principles and positions year after year, and return again to your constitutions, which have stood the test of time and have brought great benefits to your own organization, your own institutions, but also bring an important continuity and cohesion to the conversation about how we move forward as a global community. And whenever we talk about the role of religious in the UN system, it is always important, I think, to address how the UN system has a need for the particular prophetic spiritual call of religious life. And for that, one of the first places to turn is to the UN Charter, which is sort of the constitution of the UN system itself, that lays out its purpose, its reason for existence, and what it aims to do. And so within this charter, we see that we, the peoples, not the governments, but the peoples of the United Nations, have come together to save succeeding generations from war, to reaffirm faith in human rights and in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equality of men and women. We've come together to establish justice, to promote social progress and better standards of life. And we do this work so that we can live together in peace as good neighbors, so that we can be strengthened in maintaining peace, so that we can promote the economic and social advancement of all peoples. And whenever I read these phrases, I'm reminded so much of the principles of Catholic social teaching, the concepts of human dignity, which are stated directly in this document, the idea of the common good ahead of individual ego or domination, of rights and responsibilities, stewardship of the natural environment. They're all present here in the ultimate aim of the United Nations, which, though it seems to be secular on its face, turns out to have fairly spiritual ambitions. And when we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, one way we might interpret this is that it's really a secular roadmap to the reign of God. So though we're not seeing the same language or the same stories and symbols we might use in our own communication about how we work toward the kingdom or the reign of God, we see its elements here in secular language, and we can find a unity of our mission with that of the larger secular international community. And you all have begun that connection even in your introductions, sharing how you saw yourselves in many of these. I think collectively we covered all of them. And it's also important to note that the UN system itself and its leaders do acknowledge that there is a spiritual element to the very long range, long-term work that has to transcend our personal interest, transcend even our own individual lifetimes, because it is slow work. And we have a quote here from a former Deputy Secretary General of the UN Mr. Jan Eliasson, saying it's important to realize there is an element of spirituality needed in what we do in order to stop dividing humanity into us and them. The most important word in the world is together. So there we have an acknowledgement of the political and spiritual needing to work together to realize our common vision. And we also have a very important advocate in the former advisor of the UN Population Fund, who now directs Religions for Peace, comes herself from the Muslim faith tradition. And she has advocated very long and very hard in the UN system for recognition of the important role of religious leaders. And what she reminds the UN system is that the UN aims to deal with a huge range of issues affecting global communities. And religion plays a powerful, complementary, moral, social, economic, and political role, particularly for disenfranchised communities, because that is where you seek to serve first and foremost as leaders. And every religious tradition has these leaders and networks providing
for a
food
couple of more minutes,
distribution.
and we will get started by
Sorry, if
5
you could
minutes
just
past the
mute
hour.
yourself, please.
Exactly.
Thank you. So every religious tradition has leaders and networks providing food distribution, healthcare, education, and conflict mediation, and religious social service networks, which preceded the UN and the government entities alike, tend to reach more people and are more deeply entrenched in the community than any other organization. So these are important recognitions of the role of religious and spiritual leadership in this secular space of the United Nations. And on the side of spiritual leadership, we also have an endorsement for engagement in political spaces. From Pope Francis, we hear that politics is one of the highest forms of charity, in as much as it seeks the common good. If we allow ourselves to be influenced by a broader meaning of life, we can truly serve the common good and be strengthened in striving to increase the goods of this world and make them more accessible to all. And even in our Catholic Catechism, in a passage that comes from St. John Chrysostom, we're reminded that as people of faith, we're called not only to counteract injustice where we see it in political or economic realms by engaging in charitable works that heal some of those wounds, but we're also called to transform the unjust economic and political systems so that we can eradicate the suffering that causes the demand for that charity. And St. John says that in the words, that not to enable the poor to share in our goods is to steal from them and deprive them of life. That which is already due in justice is not to be offered as a gift of charity. So in conclusion, we come together as a family of many congregations, many charisms, many ministries, already joining many ideas and visions. And we further build in our partnership and our conjunction by crossing into what may feel like a space that's not designed for us, but in fact, a space in which we are essential. Because the crises that we face are not separate. They're not individually social, political, economic, environmental, but really that they are all one complex crisis that requires confrontation on all of these planes, in all of these realms. So I'll pause there and just ask if there's any question or comment that anyone might like to add. I know many of you are experts in this area too. These ideas may not be new to you. But if there is any question or any comment anyone would like to add, I encourage you to either, you can use the raise hand button if you see it, or you can physically raise your own hand and I will try to see you and call on you. Yes, Pat, please go ahead and unmute.
Yes, Teresa, just a clarification. When you were talking about religious NGOs, you were talking about those with consultative status. Yes?
Yes, that's correct, Pat. Yes,
Okay.
so all of those ways in which I mentioned we are able to participate, statements, meetings with delegates, all of those are available to NGOs that have a consultative or an accreditation status with the Economic and Social Council or through the Department of Global Communications.
Okay, good, thank you.
Teresa, Thomas here.
Yes, please, Thomas.
And that is a very, very clear presentation, and congratulations for that. I just want to add one element to it, and that is we tend to focus our participation mainly at the UN. But since our congregations are spread across the globe, and we have great opportunity to participate in the regional processes, maybe sometime you could draw your attention, our attention to that as well. So being observer, having observer status in the regional centers, and especially for the HLPF, the UN here, UN there puts a premium on the preliminary participation of the regional centers. So that's one thing that probably we will also need to highlight as we have this discussion on HLPF. So for Africa at the ECA, Euro for ECE, at Geneva, Addis Ababa earlier, Santiago at the ECLAC, and ESCAP at Bangkok. So these, I think these centers also need to be populated by our presence. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I see Yasuko and then Rosa Maria, I believe.
I just wanted to thank you for the very uplifting presentation that really made it clear the meaning of religious and secular roadmap. SDGs is secular roadmap to the reign of God. It really put everything in a nutshell, and I'm really grateful. Thank you very much.
Yes, Rosa Maria, por favor.
Me toca profundamente la información de verdad.
The information you offered us has moved me, really. It was very informative, but there was one point that really moved me about our voice, the religious voice before the UN. And that aspect of being steady and stable. I'm moved by it because I believe this is a very important influence we can accept. And it is important because we are on the ground. And as a representative of Latin America, I can assure you that we are really working on every SDG, and we don't work with them in our minds, in theory, through papers. We are on the ground, and we are really touching these realities and facing them. So I believe that we really have something to say to the UN. And if we
nuestra representatividad en las Naciones Unidas.
Our presence and our voice before the UN stronger. Thank you.
Exactamente, Rosa Maria. Muchísimas gracias.
Exactly, Rosa Maria. Thank you.
Miren, por favor.
Pues yo estoy muy agradecida y
I am very thankful, and I'm surprised as well, because I didn't know that UN officers valued spirituality as well. I do believe that spirituality is everywhere, and I am convinced that the SDGs are really full of spirituality, but it is true that we are on the ground working in touch with people, with their problems, and that really moves our hearts and moves us to act, or sometimes just to be with people, because sometimes there is no action possible, and the only thing we can do is to be with them and to live with them. And I believe we can really offer these grounds, this base to build upon, because we know what is happening in reality.
Gracias, Miren. Maricruz.
Muchas gracias también por la presentación.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question out of curiosity. When you mention that that there are religious congregations represented before the UN, I am also thinking about other religions, and I would like to know if there is an interfaith dialogue somehow, if we cooperate with other religions in our voice before the UN or not.
In answer to that, I believe there is some NGO representing any faith you can imagine or name. There may be more Catholic NGOs than many other faith communities. And in particular, there's also another Catholic influence in the fact that the Holy See, the Vatican, also has status as an observer to the United Nations, which is unique among faith communities. There is no other religious group that has that kind of access and status. But as non-government groups and as religious congregations apart from the Vatican, I would say we see ourselves more on similar footing, on similar ground and position with members of representing other faith communities, and they are all present. There are sometimes meetings of what they call faith-based organizations, and they are very well populated and many traditions represented.
Gracias.
Qué pena, Teresa, con lo que
Thank you. I have another question about your answer, Teresa. This special status of the Vatican, it's because not as a religion, but as a state, the Vatican state, or why? Or is it because of the religion, the Catholic faith, or why does the Vatican have this status?
So one of the primary reasons is essentially there are a set of requirements that allow for an entity to become either a member or an observer state. And so one of the primary factors for the Vatican is that it has territory, that in most other religious traditions don't necessarily have a specific location, specific territory that kind of allows them to be seen as a state. So that is one of the main factors that makes a difference and a distinction between others. But I will acknowledge there is plenty of debate and has been debate for a long time about whether or not the Vatican or the Catholic Church alone should have this kind of status and voice as an observer state. So some advocate that other religions should have similar representation, and some advocate that no religion should have this kind of representation. So it is like everything at the UN, there is always debate and persuasion happening. So, but that is where it stands now. Are there any other questions or comments at the moment? We do have more to cover, so not to worry.
Teresa, another
Yes.
reason that Vatican has a presence is that it is acknowledged as nation state in one sense. So it sends ambassadors to all countries, I mean, whichever country wants to send ambassadors. So unlike the other religions, it is also, unfortunately, in my thinking, unfortunately, a nation state. And over 2000 years, we haven't had the courage to give up that, despite saying that we should be, depending on God Almighty and all that stuff that we speak. We haven't really had the courage to say that we are not a state, that our kingdom is of the heart. Maybe, right, I don't know, down the line, maybe we'll have a change of heart. That's one thing. And the other thing is that being an observer state is a choice, is a conscious decision that the Vatican has taken, unlike Palestine, which is compulsion because it's not recognized as a state by everybody else. So Vatican wants to be an observer state because it doesn't want to be seen as voting for or against something. So that's some decision that Vatican has taken by choice. So that would be some of the distinctions there.
Good, thank you, Thomas.
Cecilia, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Teresa. It's just a comment I want to make, and it is so beautiful. Thank you so much for that presentation. It is beautiful and meaningful for us, and it's especially meaningful in the way you integrate all the different aspects of life, from our own inner world to our action at the local level, and then to the global level, which is the world of the SDGs and the whole United Nations. And I think that integration is really so important for us religious to try to ensure that our communities, integrate like this. I think it was Azra and some of I don't know if it was the Faith for Earth group, but they used to say, the religions, they go on their own track and they do not make the connection with the actual secular world, and that is so important. And for a group like us here, it is essential that we work on that so that all aspects of life are all interconnected, and that our values, our religion is the kind of the motivation that makes us be part of all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Luis Fernando?
Teresa, muchas gracias.
Teresa, thank you very much. From Bogota, Colombia, I would like to thank you for this presentation, and I would like to make a short comment.
Trabajo como Iglesia Católica.
As a Catholic Church, we are based on the gospel, on Jesus Christ, and I believe this is the main aspect that we have in common. We are all united in Jesus, which is very important, and we see this ministry in his works. He was feeding people not just with bread. He was giving spiritual nourishment to everybody, and he was healing people. Everybody who crossed his path with him felt cured, felt new life, and this is what we are trying to do. No matter if we are Claretians or Salesians or Dominicans or older, younger, we are all united in the person of Jesus Christ as Christians and Catholics. Thank you, Teresa, for leading this meeting, and thank you everybody for coming and sharing it with the rest.
Muchísimas gracias, Luis. And Zulia. Por
Zulia.
favor.
First of all, I would like to thank the wonderful work you did summing up all this presentation. And I would like to explain that we might take this into account, precisely that we are a strong force and we carry a very important responsibility as well. Because the political level, in the best sense of the word, as the level in which we try to achieve the common good, cannot be separated, completely separated from our missionary work, from our social work. And that's why I am really happy to be able to participate with other organizations here, because I believe that if we are united, we can really achieve our goals. And I can see it in Guatemala. I arrived here 3 years ago, and we have gone through the pandemic here. And nevertheless, I see that if our congregations work together, and if we share this feeling, this belief that we have that we can achieve a better world, we are unstoppable. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Zulia. Diego, por favor.
Por mi parte, pues quería valorar.
On my part, I would like to stress that fact that you shared with us about how important it is to participate in civil society networks and in different secular frameworks, so that we can put on the table everything that we are seeing in our missions, in our ministries, in our particular countries. For example, here in Colombia, we have a very critical political situation at the moment, and we could realize how important it is that religious let hear their voice in the national context. And we could realize, we could see that it was very important that the institution of the church and all members of the church could raise their voices and prove that we are inserted in the world, that our feet are on the ground. And I believe that clear voice, that is some parts of the Colombian church were giving us a witness, was very important. And I would like to stress the importance of what you're doing at the UN as well, which is the same.
Gracias, Diego. Puntos importantes.
Very important points. Thank you.
Okay, and I see, Adriana, por favor.
Buen día, gracias por la
Good
presentación.
morning. Thank you very much for this presentation. It was very interesting and very inclusive and thorough. I have a question, and it might be because I'm very new, and on top of that, I'm a lay person. But well, I'm in Nicaragua, and in Nicaragua, I was working at the government before. That I was working with the other team, and I would like to know at what level we are working in order to disseminate the SDGs, or how far are SDGs known? Because I can say this because I have had the experience in Nicaragua. It is a very intellectual or high level aspect that is not widely known. And I would say that the SDGs should not be known by intellectuals or by high level politicians, but by the general population. And I would like to ask how you think we should work so that rural communities, like the people, actually know the SDGs. I believe we need to disseminate them, because if they know about these goals, they might get empowered. It is true that politics are very important, and Pope Francis mentioned that in that quote that you read, he said that politics are very important. But on the other hand, and I repeat myself because I'm talking about my personal experience in Nicaragua, but I could see personally that the access to information helps people to empower themselves. And the SDGs in Nicaragua are not widely known. It's known by a very close circle. So I would like to know how we can get to lay people like myself so that they get to know the SDGs. How can we disseminate the SDGs among a population that is not knowledgeable of this resource? And probably even if they don't know the SDG, if they are suffering from poverty, from exclusion, etc., like in my country in Central America, they might not have this cultural idea, but they might recognize it immediately because they have had the experience. They have suffered from structural violence in their countries or different aspects. I was expelled and I'm living in the United States because the situation in my country is highly dangerous. So I've gone through it. And as Christians, I believe it is our mission to disseminate the SDGs and maybe translate it to a more popular language so that everybody can have access to this information. That was my question.
Sí, gracias, Adriana. It's an excellent question. And I think we all can find space in ministries, especially ministries of education or pastoral work. We have tremendous opportunity to speak and to educate a community. And you're right, this information is powerful. It is a tool that will allow people to speak for themselves, to know what their government has promised to them. And in order to use that tool, people need to know it exists and it needs to be placed in their hands. And so I think we can all be thinking creatively about opportunities we have whenever we are in ministry with a community. There can always be an opportunity for introduction of this information. One of the most beautiful things about it is the language. Unlike most UN documents, this language is very clear. It does not require lengthy sentences or understanding of international law. These are concrete ideas that are accessible to everyone, and everyone can see their own desire for a different world in these goals. And so it's an excellent opportunity for us. And I think in addition to speaking in political spaces, the other piece of our role is to bring those tools from the political space into the communities where we are. That's a big piece of our role as advocates. I know we're coming toward the end of our time. So I see 2 more hands. I do have another short presentation to offer you, But if I could just ask Francisco and Anselmus just to share briefly, and then I will return to another presentation, beginning with Francisco, please.
Muchas gracias. Excelente presentación.
Thank you very much. It was an excellent presentation, Teresa. I loved the way you focused on this topic, and I could recognize your experience. And I hope to be able to share this presentation here locally. I hope you can send us a copy and allow us to share it with our groups. I believe it is a privilege to be a member of this wide and diverse group in which every one of us faces specific challenges deriving from the SDGs. And I believe that if we are able to integrate human and spiritual principles and bring them to the structures, the secular structures, and bring them to secular tools, we can have something very powerful in our hands. And I believe this requires a continuous effort, of course, but I believe that if we work together, since we are such a large group, we can learn from each other, we can enrich ourselves from the others and other ideas. And this is what I wanted to stress. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to approach the comment of Adriana. I agree with her. We need to disseminate the SDGs, and we can maybe think by ourselves individually how we can be agents of change at the same time. As religious, as members of a religious community, lay members or religious members, we can enter in this reflection process of what can I do to be an agent of change, but knowing that we are backed up by a larger community and by Jesus Christ and God, who is present through his Spirit with us and in us. And so maybe we can come to specific tools or specific steps we can start making towards this new politics, but knowing that we have this awareness and this support of our religion, of the church, of in your case the church of the Americas, etc. And I believe this aspect can help us to find these practical steps we can start.
Excellent. Thank you all very much for your rich responses and sharing. You each bring a unique language and perspective to this work and this mission, and that is exactly why we come together and to share our perspectives. So now I want to direct us toward how we specifically will be participating in this conference in July. The high-level political forum on sustainable development. And so for that, I'll offer a very brief introduction to the conference itself and what we will do together. So the high-level political forum on sustainable development, or HLPF in English, is the primary opportunity for nations to review the progress that they're making toward achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And when not in pandemic times, it is held annually in New York in the month of July. And in this forum, governments have an opportunity to present their own reports of their progress, which they do voluntarily. It's not required of them. And these reports they make are known as Voluntary National Reviews. And very importantly, there's also an opportunity for civil society, that's us, the non-government community, to present our perspectives on our nation's progress. Or again, in many cases, we're presenting our perspective on lack of progress, where we see some difference between our report and our experience and the experience that the government might be reporting. And then as an outcome for this forum, the governments produce a joint declaration, which they call the Ministerial Declaration, that will include their common observations and joint intentions for their work for the year ahead. So in some way, it's like a retreat and reflection process to create a vision for the year ahead. And each year there is a specific set of SDGs that are the focus of the forum for that year. And so this year, the focus is on recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically connected to many, this is almost about half of the SDGs, so it's a large set this year. But SDG 1 on poverty eradication, SDG 2 on zero hunger, SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 8, decent work and employment, SDG 10, reducing inequalities, SDG 12, responsible production and consumption, where the environment is concerned, SDG 13, climate action, SDG 16, just and peaceful institutions, or what we might think of as good governance, and SDG 17, which is partnerships to support the entire agenda, the whole set of 17 goals. And there will be 42 countries who have elected, who have volunteered to present reports on their progress this year. And I have listed some here that we represent as a group who's gathered here today. So those 42 who are reporting will include Bolivia, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, Germany, Guatemala, Indonesia, Japan, Madagascar, Malaysia, Mexico, Nicaragua, Paraguay, Spain, Uruguay, and Zimbabwe. And one very important piece of our following these proceedings will be to listen to the reports that are being submitted by our governments. And it's important for us to know ahead of time that there is typically not enough time or space for any country to really give a full, comprehensive picture of the reality in their country. And so these reports typically focus almost exclusively on the positive news or the strengths in their work toward achieving the SDGs. They kind of stick to the happy news, which often leaves big gaps in the story, especially the pieces of the story about communities who have been marginalized or left behind in terms of these many facets of development. And so this is where our role comes in as civil society. We are asked to be observers, to review the reports of the governments and to fill in those gaps in the story so that the world has a more complete picture, a more complete understanding of the reality in our respective countries. And in doing that, giving that full picture helps us to hold the governments accountable for all communities in their country and for all of the SDGs, not just those that they feel they are making the most progress in. And it also is an opportunity for us to identify good policies and good programs that are working, that are helping communities to move toward the reality that is described by the SDGs. And so in that way, we can offer support and advice and guidance to governments and enlighten them or offer them with examples of programs that really can make a positive impact, even in communities that they think they cannot reach and cannot help. And there are many networks of civil society organizations, of NGOs who are working together to monitor this whole process from year to year. And so I have listed just some of them here and on the following slide, and I will share all of this because I have links here so that you can explore and look at who is the civil society network in your country, so that you can be in contact with them and potentially look toward participating in their work in future years. But for this year, our focus will be to come together as a team, as a joint delegation of JCoR, to follow the proceedings, to follow the reports coming from our governments, and to reflect on those and offer our own insights and our own response. And so we'll do that first by coming together on calls like this one, which we will have again in June on the 17th. And then following the forum itself, we will have a discussion afterward to debrief, to share our insights. That will be July 22nd. And in between these calls, we will have specific assignments or prompts that you'll be invited to undertake together. And these will be reflections and actions that you can take to learn more about what your country is saying and reporting at the high-level political forum and what they have said in the past, if they have reported in previous years. And we will also work together to offer our insights and our unique observations in the form of a joint statement that relates to the focus SDGs for this year. So we will each kind of offer our own insights and contribution to a statement that we will put out together as JCoR. We will also work together to organize an event that will happen online during the high-level political forum that will be something of a showcase and a place for us to share our observations and offer some of our ministries as examples of ways that religious are delivering the SDGs to communities that are hardest to reach.
So before we meet again, you will each be asked to review the most recent report, the most recent Voluntary National Review that was submitted by your national government, and also to review the last SDG report that was submitted by your country's civil society network. And a reflection will be on these two documents for each of us. So we will, as we read them, reflect and prepare to share where our experiences align with the government and civil society reports, where our experiences might conflict with those reports. We may see a complete contradiction between the report and our experience. And also, maybe we see a gap where there's an important insight to be offered, something that you have learned over time in your ministry or something you have observed among the people you serve. And these could be important insights to add to our own reporting on the SDGs. And I know some of these reports can be quite long and detailed. And so I would say you need not worry about necessarily reading every piece of the report, but to focus on the areas that are of most importance to you. Think of the SDGs you named when you were introducing yourself, and find those pieces of the report and focus there. Focus on where your strength is, where your expertise is, and don't be overwhelmed by maybe a very long report that touches on every one of the SDGs. So we will keep our focus to our area of strength, because that is where we will have the most important voice to offer.
I know that was a very quick introduction, but I hope it was clear enough as a beginning for us I will share all of that information, so you will have it to look over again. You will have links. I have kind of brought together the websites of all of your civil society networks for your respective countries. I have links for the reports that have been submitted in the past by your governments, if they have submitted some in the past. And I also have a collection of reports that have been submitted by the NGOs, by civil society in the past, so that we can kind of begin personal study. You can each look at the information for your own country and begin to understand what government has been saying, what our colleagues and partners in civil society have been saying, and then to find places where we have agreement or places where we see a difference from our own experience in ministry. And this is the beauty of this opportunity, is you don't need to do research beyond hearing what other people are saying, because as advocates, as those who are ministering every day in communities that are waiting for the SDGs to become real, your own experience and your own observations are exactly the insight and the information that the UN system needs. And so this is an invitation to really bring forward your own personal expertise, your own experience, and your own insights. Are there any burning questions that I can answer now?
Teresa, otra pregunta en el caso de
Teresa, I have another question. In the SDG page of Colombia, the government has already uploaded the first VNR draft. Would you think that it might be better to work on that, because it's the first draft of the actual VNR that they are going to present now, better than the previous one?
Yes, I think that's a great idea. It will be the most current information, the most current report from the Colombian government. So I think that's a very good idea to use the current year if it is available. For some of you, your government report for this year will not be online yet. They are still working. So if you don't see a report for this year, you will see one for their previous report, and you can certainly use that. Maricruz.
Acerca de las redes de la sociedad.
When we talk about civil society networks that are periodically monitoring the SDGs, do you have contacts per country, or should we find out which are the networks that are working in our country? Can you facilitate us the contact?
So I have found some contact information for at least one network in every country that is represented in our group. So I will send in the slides from today. I have links to the web pages, and those all have contact information with them too. So that will be an easy connection to find out who is working. And I also have another slide that has links directly to the most recent reports from those civil society networks. So the report is right there. You won't have to search.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Miren.
Yo sí que en la revisión anual sí que he visto.
In the Voluntary National Review of my country, I have already detected that there are different groups that have written counter reports, so to say, like the trade unions. And I would like to know where I can have access to the social the civil society reports, because I know about the trade unions in my country, but I don't know where I can have access to those civil society reports. Are they published somewhere, or how can I have access to them?
So, as you say, there may be more than one from any given country. So I will send to you links to a few that I find that are helpful, which can be found on the website of the Civil Society Network, but I will also provide a direct link to the Civil Society report so that you will have that easily. And if you want to go searching also for additional reports from additional groups, you are more than welcome and encouraged. Yes, Sheila.
I can also check with the NGO major group, which does a shadow report on each country presenting. And that is a group that is made up of many civil society groups from around the world. So I'm sure that we can get some contacts through them as well.
Yes, Jane.
Yeah, this is still about the networks in the countries. I am thinking of the situation on the ground. What is the experience so far in terms of connecting congregation with the networks at the national level? Is there is it possible for example, one congregation connects with the network, or is it advisable that the congregation can be part of an association, let's say local association, to then connect with the network? Because yes, some communities, some congregations belong to an association, or they can go straight to the network.
I would say either way is a valuable approach. If your congregation already belongs to an association that is involved in the National Civil Society Network, and you already have a relationship through that pathway, then I would say that's an excellent way to participate. If you are not connected to a local association that is involved in this network, then you definitely are able, you can and are encouraged to get directly involved with the civil society network. You would be considered an NGO in the grand scheme of civil society networks, and as such, you would definitely have a role to play and could definitely join on behalf of your own congregation.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe Teresa.
Yes.
Teresa, we can also share those webinars that are available on VNR and HLPF, no? With the.
Yes, absolutely. So Rohan is mentioning that the UN system itself is offering several trainings that will give you more detail on the topics that I just introduced. And they are going to be in English, Spanish, and French. And so those are all coming up in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to, if you learn well by listening and conversation, more so than reading, then that's a great opportunity to learn more. And I will share the links to register for all of those. Thank you, Rohan. And one last comment from Viviana.
Hola, ¿me escuchan bien?
Can you hear me? Well, first of all, I would like to thank the opportunity of meeting you. I really love every single one of your interventions. And I would like to mention that I am from Peru. We've been working here with some communities in which the sisters are present since 2015. But since the beginning, since the outbreak of the pandemic, some universities have written reports according to this special situation in the pandemic. And in those reports, they have used the SDGs to write these reports. And that's why at least in Peru, the SDGs are mentioned in the news almost every day, and politicians are mentioning the SDGs every day. And I would like to offer this to Adriana when she asked what we could do to disseminate them. And I would like to explain to her that we've been working on this aspect for 5 years now in the communities. And the pandemic has given us the opportunity to see how important and how urgent these SDGs are and how transversal they are, because we cannot talk about poverty if we don't have access to a quality education. And at the beginning, it seems to be a very difficult task, a very big task, but a little bit every day achieves a lot. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Viviana. I'm so glad that you're with us today, and that work you are sharing is excellent. I will ask you to send me some information on that so I can share it with the whole group as well. And with that, I think we are at our time to close for today. So I will just close us by saying another word of thanks. Thanks to God for allowing us all to be together, and to each of you for the gift of your presence, your curiosity, your imagination, your passion. These are all important tools we need to journey together. And I'm so grateful to meet you and excited to continue working with you for the next couple of months. And then we take the journey from there. That will not be the end either. So have a good night, a good afternoon, a good morning. And I will be emailing you, and then I will see you again on June 17th, I hope.
Thank you.
Gracias.